And we are live. How's it going, guys? It's Luke Ponto once again, back for another very special live stream with you guys. And tonight, I'm actually going to be doing a top 10 MCU films. And man, oh man, we got some really awesome MCU projects coming up here very soon. Still got Eternals and No Way Home still coming out. So we're going to do a little top 10 ranking before those films come out. So I brought on a returning guest to my channel here, Tyler, aka Mind of a Nerd. You may remember him from my song ranking. How's it going, my friend?
It is going good. It's been a very long day in the movie world. We got our first look at the Matrix Resurrections, which looks very interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. And for the gamers, we just had our PlayStation event, and it was awesome. So that was a good highlight.
Absolutely, absolutely, my friend. But I was kind enough to leave a link to his Instagram and also his YouTube down below. So go give him some love. He deserves your support. And also, what the heck are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button down for my channel. Make sure you also click on that bell icon to click and make sure you get notified of all videos. If you guys enjoyed this, if you guys enjoyed any of this, hit that thumbs up also. So, this list was honestly kind of a game changer. But I had to swap some of these around a little bit, earlier today. So, it should be a very interesting ranking here. So, we're just going to go ahead and get started. But first, we're going to cover some honorable mentions before we get into the actual top 10. So, Tyler, what do you got for some honorable mentions there, my friend?
So three honorable mentions that I would have. Now, for the record, other than my bottom two of all of the MCU, I really like all of these movies. Even movies like Iron Man 2, which people consider the worst, I really enjoy Iron Man 2, even though I do acknowledge its flaws. So, a couple of my honorable mentions would be the first Iron Man. It is not in my top 10, but I do really like it. For me, why it's not in the top 10 is the third act, and its villain is a little lackluster. Next is Captain America: The First Avenger. I actually really love Captain America: The First Avenger a lot. Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, you
For
were
me,
just
the
cutting off for a
villain
second.
is a
You're good.
little. The villain is lackluster again. I do enjoy the Red Skull, but for me, he's just not really developed that much, and it sucks because that is Captain America's most iconic villain, I would think. And lastly, my last honorable mention is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a movie I've seen three times prior to my last viewing, which was last week, and I had never liked it. Every time I watched it, I was like, I don't like this movie, and I don't know why. For whatever reason, last week I watched it and I fucking loved it. I really enjoyed it. My main issues lie with the fact that they split the team up, and I don't really like that because to me, what made the first movie so great is that teamwork of them. And also, I wish they had tightened up the storyline with Peter and Ego. I think if they wrote it a little bit better, it would have been a lot deeper and more emotional. But those are my three honorable mentions. But again, I love pretty much every single Marvel movie minus my bottom two.
Yes, I totally get that for sure. I do also have Iron Man and Guardians Volume 2 in my honorable mentions, but I did add the three Marvel shows in my honorable mentions: WandaVision, Loki, and Falcon and Winter Soldier. I also do have Black Widow in my honorable mentions, which might be kind of surprising for some people. Also got Ant Man, and some people might hate me for this, but in my honorable mentions, I do have Spider Man Far From Home. But if I'm going to be honest, I like it more than Homecoming. In all honesty, I like Far From Home more than Homecoming. So, without any further ado, let's get it. Number 10. What do you got?
My number 10 is the new kid on the block. My boy Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yeah.
Um, I really dug Shang-Chi a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. The action sequences are easily the best in the MCU. It's not even up for debate. Some people say Winter Soldier. For me, I don't love the. I love Winter Soldier. You're gonna see that I love Winter Soldier. But for me, the action sequences were a little bit, they could have been improved upon because I'm not a fan of the whole shaky camera like fighting style. That's just really not my style. I like the more John Wick style where you can see where everything's happening and stuff. This movie to me got action right. The bus action sequence was fantastic. The one in the second act was fantastic. The third act was awesome. I loved the third act. It reminded me a lot of Aquaman in a really good way.
You're cutting out again, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. My internet is garbage. But what was I saying? Yeah, the third act reminds me a lot of Aquaman in a really good way. The rings were awesome. They were really cool. I loved seeing them in action, and the way they were utilized was very interesting and unique. The Mandarin was awesome. I loved him. I loved his story. I can't wait to see what they do with the Ten Rings based off the post credit scene. Um, Aquafina was very good. Um, and yeah, overall, it was just a really fun movie. And honestly, I didn't really care for Black Widow that much. I still really liked it, but just wasn't for me in terms of impact. This was a great impact, and this was for me. This was the proper start to Phase 4, not Black Widow. So, Shang Chi is at number 10 for me.
Oh yes, absolutely. I do have Shang-Chi a little bit higher here on my list, but we'll definitely get to it when I get it to my list. But um, Flix Critic is in the chat. How's it going there, my friend? Um, my number 10 is definitely different than yours, but this is actually where I put the first Avengers.
Okay.
So, but basically every single one of these films, except for a couple of them, I gave perfect 5 out of 5 stars to because I love these movies so much. But what this first Avengers film really accomplishes is actually building the team dynamic.
Hmm.
Like it really accomplishes it so well. I love um, Scarlett Johansson coming back again as Black Widow after her introduction on Iron Man 2. Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, of course, fantastic as Captain America and Iron Man. But what really got to me was the introduction of Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk. It's honestly what really got to me about this movie. Like I loved his Hulk, but not really, not kind of not what they're doing now. Like with the Professor Hulk look of him, I'm not really buying that honestly because it's strange. But I loved his Hulk in this movie, and Tom Hiddleston as Loki, perfect, perfect villain. I love Loki. He is a great villain.
Hmm.
But like I said, the best part about this movie was building the team dynamic. Honestly, I loved the team dynamic between every single one of these people, and not to overlook Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. Just picture perfect casting there for me personally. I cannot wait to see his show coming up on Disney Plus very soon.
We're
Yeah, my
supposed to
number
get
10 is
footage next week, I believe.
there. You go. Yep. Uh, Tyler's number 10 is Shang Chi. My number 10 is the Avengers. Let's keep chugging along. Number 9.
My number 9 is Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume
Wow.
1. Yes. Guardians of the Galaxy. I remember when this movie was coming out, I was what, 12? I was like, what the fuck is this? I was so confused. I was like, what is this movie? This is so weird. I remember when the trailer came out, I was like, what is this? I remember when I saw it for the first time, I liked it, but I was like, that didn't really feel like a Marvel movie. But I didn't realize that it was more of a positive than a negative to say that. I really love Guardians of the Galaxy. The soundtrack is great. The cast all around is fantastic. Bradley Cooper as Rocket is just Batista as Drax is great. Chris Pratt as Star Lord is just fantastic. The action sequences are really fun. Um, I really have this at number nine only because of the story and the characters and the writing. Why it's a little lower is for me the villain is really weak.
Yeah,
Um,
Ronan.
Honestly, Nebula was a better villain than Ronan was. They gave Nebula more character than Ronan, and it's a shame because Ronan is a pretty cool villain, I think, in the comics, and they didn't really do anything with him. But I think that if they had tweaked it a little bit and made the villain a lot better, I think it would be higher for me. But it's still a top 10 film for me, and it's one that I will always go back and rewatch.
Definitely, and we all got to thank James Gunn for giving us this movie, and also like of course the sequel and the Suicide Squad. You got to thank James Gunn for all of those movies, for
Mhm.
sure. Okay, so my number nine might come off as another kind of a shocker for everybody, but this is actually where I put Avengers: Infinity War.
What?
So
Um,
don't get me wrong though, like I pretty much love all these movies, but to me, what really puts Avengers: Infinity War lower um on the list for me is sometimes I think this film gets a bit slow at times, despite being a little over 2.5 hours or close to 2.5 hours. This film gets a little bit slow for my taste, but it's not that much of an issue. It's just I think this one gets a little bit too slow at times. But I loved Josh Brolin as Thanos, and I loved how they actually focused more on him this time around and not just the heroes themselves.
mhm.
Because when you focus on a villain like this, then you basically have build up to a new chapter, which would be Endgame. And I just love how they focus on Josh Brolin as Thanos a little bit more. The characters were great. The action sequences were so well directed by the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers are basically like the best of the any MCU directors that you can possibly think of. Well, yeah, they definitely are. I love the Russo brothers for this franchise. They did phenomenal with the direction here, and I love how they actually took their time to build up to
Yeah.
Endgame.
Hmm.
So that is something that I really love about this movie, and also I love the characters once again. Um, just an overall fantastic film. I cannot wait to rewatch this film again soon. But so yeah, you got Guardians of the Galaxy at number nine. I got Infinity War. Let's keep going. What do you got for number eight there, my friend?
My number eight is going to be Spider-Man: Homecoming. Um,
Okay.
both. Listen, I love both of the Spider-Man MCU movies. I love them both. I remember when I saw Homecoming and I just absolutely loved it. And it's one of the few. I don't own all of the MCU movies. I think I own maybe six of them. Maybe I might be wrong about that. But Spider-Man: Homecoming is one of the few that I do own because I just absolutely love this movie. Tom Holland for me is my personal favorite Spider-Man. Vulture is a great villain. I really love how it's kind of a down to earth movie for me. Also, I love the third act. I love when he gets his suit taken away and he has to prove himself again. It's fucking fantastic. I love that. This movie has my favorite Spider-Man scene in any Spider-Man movie period, and it's the scene where he's under the building and he has to lift the building and find his confidence. I love that scene. It's my favorite. Um, I love all his friends. I don't know the actors by name, but Ned is a really funny character. I like Flash Thompson, even though his the MCU version of Flash Thompson is a little strange for me, but I've grown to kind of dig it. The romance was kind of okay. It's more impactful when they get to the twist, which is one of my favorite twists in the MCU when they reveal that he was her dad. That was, I remember like the reaction in my theater was like something out of Endgame. We were like, "Oh shit, bro!" I will never forget that.
Yeah.
The third act is a lot of fun. I love where it ends, where Vulture is kind of, I guess, on his side now. I don't know where we go because apparently he's in Morbius, but we'll see where that goes if that movie ever comes out. Um, but yeah, Spider-Man: Homecoming is my number 8.
Definitely a good choice. Definitely a good choice for sure. I definitely have it lower, like on my MCU ranking. I gave it a 4 out of 5 on my letterbox. There are just a couple things that bother me, that we're not going to get into. But speaking of your little theater experience that the theater had, like when it was revealed that Michael Keaton was actually the father, um, my buddy Zach Goller, if he's watching this or on the replay, um, basically the entire theater went like full gasp, like when they found out that Michael Keaton's actually the father, and basically he was looking around, and then the guy sitting behind him, he strode forward all the way, looked like this, and he was just looking at the screen like, yeah, just sentimental memories about that for sure. Got to shout out Movies and Train Studios in the chat. How's it going, buddy? And Flix Critic is saying, "What's up, Movies and Train Studios?" Okay, my number 8. We're gonna go 2 Russo Brother movies in a row. This is where I put Captain America: Civil War. I absolutely adore Captain America: Civil War. I got no problems with this movie, honestly. I have it a little bit lower than some of the others because, again, there were just times where I feel like the pacing was a little bit off. But the biggest thing I really love about that movie is it feels like an Avengers semi film. Like, it feels like a semi Avengers movie where basically it's titled Captain America: Civil War for a reason because it's not technically an Avengers movie. That is something that I honestly love about this movie is that basically they try to make it like an Avengers movie, but basically you're more focused on Captain America. But Chris Evans, again, a fantastic as Captain America. Robert Downey Jr. But not to be overlooked here, Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen as Vision and Wanda Maximoff. Just they can't be overlooked with this movie. But the thing that kind of confused me about this movie was like, why were they on opposite sides in Civil War, but then they came together in WandaVision? That was
Because
honestly the
Vision because they believed in two different things. Wanda and Vision both believed in two different sides of the accord.
yeah. That honestly did kind of confuse me there a little bit, but I still love Civil War. I love the fight sequences, and I really like how it's not just like a battle between the characters. I at least like how there is like setup for it and just emotion all behind these characters, which is something that I love. And this was the first film to introduce Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther.
Rest in peace. Indeed.
Rest in peace, King. So, uh, Movies and Trains says my number 8 is actually Doctor Strange. That's kind of a hot take. We said
I used to have Doctor Strange a lot higher, but upon this MCU rewatch, it went down a few pegs for me.
I definitely have Doctor Strange higher here on my list. It will show up, but Flix Critic says Doctor Strange is my top 10. Very underrated. I definitely agree. Captain America: Civil War is my favorite MCU film and comic book film. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Also a hot take. top two favorite comic book movies aren't in the MCU. They're Deadpool and Man of Steel.
Thank you, movies and trains, for the appreciation for Man of Steel. You get the round of applause, my good man. Thank you very much. Man of Steel is fucking amazing. So is Deadpool.
Yeah. Yes, I love Deadpool. Man of Steel. Man of Steel is okay for me. I like it.
I fucking love Man of Steel. Shit is awesome.
Totally get that. But let's just keep chugging right along. What do you got for number 7 there, my friend?
My number 7 is going to be the first Avengers. Yes, yes, yes.
There it
The
is.
first Avengers. I remember when this movie came out. I think I was like 10. This was like the greatest thing in history when this came out. I don't think anyone thought the Avengers was going to happen ever. When we were getting movies like Daredevil, Ghost Rider, Elektra, um, I don't think anyone was like, man, one day we're going to be sitting in the theater buying tickets to see the Avengers. You know,
It's true.
and when we got that post credit scene in 2008, we were like, holy shit, this is actually going to happen. And when flash forward 4 years later, we were like, this is fucking happening. And say obviously, things have been said about him, but you can't deny he still made a great movie. Joss Whedon directed the shit out of this movie, and you got to give the man credit. He did a great job. The cast all around is fantastic. I love the pacing of the movie. The action sequences are great. The humor is on point. I love the structure of the movie, and the third act is just fucking awesome. And it's something that'll never get old to me. It's a little bit cheesy, but honestly, for a first Avengers movie, I think, it needed a little bit of that cheesiness, and it's to its benefit. I love the Avengers, and it's my number 7. I love it so much.
Yeah, Joss Whedon definitely did a great job with this one, and also with Age of Ultron, which I do not have on my list for kind of obvious reasons, but I still enjoy it. But obviously, we're not going to talk about Justice League, which was extremely rushed. But this one, he definitely did take his time with. But number 7 for me, we just touched upon this. It's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So, I did see this in theaters last Sunday, and I really loved this movie, for sure. Great action sequences all around. Just, I don't know. I just can't say enough good things about this movie that hasn't even been said yet. It's just a great action movie. Simu Liu, a warm welcome to him to the MCU. A very warm welcome for him as Shang-Chi. I love his character. Again, just to point your just to touch on your point there, I love the Mandarin as well. It's like when we got that like little twist in Iron Man 3 where it was like Ben Kingsley was not actually the Mandarin. I was always wondering for the longest time, like, who actually is the Mandarin? And then we find it out here. But again, Simu Liu, fantastic in the movie. Ben Kingsley also great. I loved Aquafina in this movie. She literally had me in stitches throughout most of this movie. And I don't know. I think she was also another really great addition to the MCU. I really cannot wait to see what she does in future projects. But yes, but Shang-Chi is my number 7. Um, Movies and Train says, my number 7 is Spider-Man Homecoming. Probably the second most rewatchable movie in the MCU. Solid. Solid. Oh. There we go. Fix that. Oh. Okay. All right, let's just keep chugging along. Number 6.
All right. My number 6 is, and I'm gonna have a hot take. Not the pick, but why it's my pick. Number 6 for me is Spider-Man: Far From Home. I
Okay.
absolutely love Spider-Man Far From Home. And I will go on the record and say obviously my favorite Spider-Man movie is Into the Spider-Verse. That movie is just fantastic. My favorite live action Spider-Man movie is Spider-Man Far From Home. And the reason I say that is because I'm a big fan of the 90s cartoon. If anyone has seen it, then you know which one I'm talking about. I love that cartoon. And so this MCU Spider-Man movie for me made me feel a lot like it was that cartoon come to life. You had this huge adventure with Mysterio and this deep personal story where Spider-Man had to overcome losing Iron Man and he had to really step into his own footing as Spider-Man again. And I really dug it a lot. And it's just a movie that I absolutely love. I love Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. I think they did a great job with him. Um, I know everyone complains about the motivation. I really don't care, to be honest. I really don't. I saw this movie 3 times in the theater, which is the most I've seen any MCU movie, including Endgame. I only saw Endgame twice in the theater. I saw this 3 times in the theater because I absolutely loved Far From Home. It's a movie that I can rewatch endlessly, and for me, this is the perfect Spider-Man movie for me.
Absolutely. And for people that did not see Endgame before going into Far From Home, you really should have watched Endgame before you went into Far From Home because Far From Home picks up right where Endgame left off.
Yep.
So, um, movies and trains. Really? You still not yet see Shang-Chi?
Well, don't go on Marvel's Instagram page because it'll spoil everything. Because they don't give a shit.
Yeah, but he'll see it on a matinee showing. That's actually how I saw it. I saw it on a matinee showing. Um, I know I did tell you this, that I did see a trailer for No Way Home at Shang-Chi. I thought you guys were going to be jealous that I saw a trailer for No Way Home in theaters.
It's whatever, man. There's a whole bunch of movies coming out before No Way Home comes out. I'll probably end up seeing it at Eternals or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but that was also the second time that I saw a Kingsman trailer in the theater. So if I continuously see that trailer in theaters, I'm probably just going to skip it in theaters, just wait for it to come on physical media. But Movies and Train says Ant-Man is his number 6. I have that as an honorable mention there, my friend, but really good movie nonetheless. Really good. But
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I honestly could only imagine like what Edgar Wright was going to go for, apparently, because he was attached as a producer. But could you
Honestly,
imagine
I think
like
I think Ant Man would have been like Baby Driver minus the music. Like
yeah,
honestly,
if only they pulled the trigger like for Edgar Wright.
it's whatever, man.
Number 7 for flicks is Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 7 is his Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 6 is Infinity War. I really want to see Shang-Chi so bad. You gotta see it, man. It's so good. Best of Phase 4 so far. But number 6, Tyler touched upon this earlier. This is where I put Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I did not see this movie in the theater back when it came out. I was about 11 when it came out. I did not get a chance to see it in theaters. I saw it at the beginning of 2015 when I bought the movie on DVD. Again, I wasn't really collecting any Blu-rays. But I did watch it for the first time in 2015, and I absolutely fell in love with this movie. I have watched this film like on repeat for the past few years. It never, ever gets old to me. I love the soundtrack to the movie. The characters are great. Vin Diesel as Groot. Perfect. Just picture perfect casting to me. I love Vin Diesel as Groot. Chris Pratt, of course, as Peter Quill, Star Lord. Fantastic. Zoe Saldana as Gamora. Excellent. Dave Bautista as Drax the Destroyer. Nothing else needs to be said. I love the characters, love the soundtrack. Ronan is kind of a little small issue with this movie, but it's not going to make me downgrade the movie too harshly because of it, of the character. Because I still really do love Guardians of the Galaxy, mostly because of the characters, the soundtrack, and I love these action sequences that were directed by James Gunn. Man, oh man, I love Guardians of the Galaxy. And just as a little tidbit for you guys, if you guys don't know, both of these movies have a little cameo by Howard the Duck. Not the little 80s Howard the Duck.
The
Completely different looking.
master of quack fu.
No one laughs at a master of whack fu. God, that movie is bad, but man is it entertaining. So entertaining. But we'll save Howard the Duck for another time because that movie is dumb. But let's just keep chugging along, my friend. What do you got for number 5?
My number 5 is Thor Ragnarok. Yes, sir.
Oh no.
Thor Ragnarok is, first of all, the way I saw Thor Ragnarok is horrible. I went to go see Thor Ragnarok, excited as any MCU fan would be. Got halfway through the movie, and then some jackass decides to pull the fire alarm, and I have to exit the premises of the film.
What?
So I then had to wait about 3 more months to then finish Thor Ragnarok. But when I did, well, actually, no. I watched it on a shitty copy just to finish the movie, but I rewatched it after that and I loved it. Thor Ragnarok for me is probably one probably one of the most rewatchable in the MCU. It's fucking so much fun. It's so much fun. I know people that hate, you know, how they made Thor here in this movie from here, onward. Honestly, I don't mind because to me he was always kind of boring. That's just me. He was kind of boring before, like in Age of Ultron. He had a little bit of this, but this was where they really just made him feel fresh. Because to me, the whole Shakespearean vibe of Thor, it was just boring to me. Both Thor movies are like very close to the bottom of my list. One obviously is at the bottom. The other one is not far off from the bottom because they're just boring to me. But Thor Ragnarok to me is just so much fun. This version of the Hulk is my favorite version of the Hulk that we've gotten from Mark Ruffalo. Valkyrie is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. I love her. Hela is such a great villain. I love Kate Blanchett as Hela. She's awesome. Um, the gladiator fight is fucking badass. The third act is a lot of
Yes.
fun. And overall, that is the one word to describe this movie. It's just pure fun for 2 hours, and Taika Waititi has done no wrong at all. And I cannot wait to see what his Star Wars movie ends up being like. Hopefully, they let him do what he wants.
Yes, absolutely. And I got the Blu-ray right here for Thor Ragnarok. I really want to upgrade this to 4K though because I heard it looks really good on 4K. But I definitely do have Thor Ragnarok higher on my list, which we will talk about a little bit later. But let's get into the chat. Movies and Train says his number 5 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Interesting. I definitely got that one a little higher on my list. We'll definitely talk about that one. He also says I've watched Ragnarok like 7 times since the Blu-ray was released. Never watched it in theaters, but I love that movie.
I actually, funny story. I don't know if you remember it. In 2018 they did a re-release for every single Marvel movie in IMAX for the 10-year anniversary of the MCU. And so I wound up seeing movies that I hadn't seen in IMAX. In IMAX, I saw the Avengers in IMAX. I saw the first Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, and I saw Infinity War again in IMAX. But so yeah, I guess I ended up seeing Thor Ragnarok the way I was supposed to in a theater in IMAX.
There you go, man. And he says Hella is hella great. Good on you there. Good on you there, Movies and Train Studios. Good on you. But I know you're gonna see this one coming, but no one thought this really would be my number five. But my number five is the Incredible Hulk. Like, you knew this was gonna be on my list though, but no one knew this was actually gonna make it my top five. But I will explain to you guys why I love the Incredible Hulk. I rented this movie from Family Video all the way back in 2008 when it first came out on physical media. Um, I remember liking it. I thought it was okay the first time I watched it. I watched it more and more growing up, and I really did start to fall in love with this movie because this is the kind of Hulk the kind of Hulk that we got in this movie is the kind of Hulk I want to see more of, and not just Professor Hulk that we got in Endgame.
Mhm.
Just personally speaking, I thought Edward Norton was phenomenal as Bruce Banner / the Hulk. He
I
is a
prefer him
total
over.
badass.
I prefer him over Mark Ruffalo.
Me too, man. Me too. I love Edward Norton as Bruce Banner and the Hulk. He is a total badass in some of these scenes, especially the university fight scene, which is one of my favorite fight scenes in the entire MCU.
Love
But
that
not
scene.
But of course, my favorite fight of this entire movie was the climax with Hulk and Abomination. I freaking love that scene. They just fight for like 15 to 20 minutes. That is
Mhm.
the type of fight scene I want to see more of in the MCU, like a 15 to 20-minute fight scenes where they're basically just going hand to hand.
Yeah, we got a little bit of that in Shang-Chi, but not fully.
Yeah, we didn't get enough of that in Shang-Chi, though. That's why it's mostly because of the fight scenes. Is the reason why I kind of have this one a little bit higher, and also the rewatch value. My only small problem with the Incredible Hulk is that I think it's too short. There were times that um, there were 70 minutes of this movie that were left on the cutting room floor, and Louis Leterrier, the
Wow.
director of this movie, and Edward Norton were pushing for at least a 2 hour and 15-minute runtime, but the studio said they wanted it to be under 2 hours. So I
That's a
would morely
shame.
I would morely agree on Leterrier and Norton's side. Like, I would want the film to be a little bit longer, so that way you can get some more levity out of Bruce Banner to actually feel his pain. Because basically, that entire opening credits was basically what the movie's first act was.
Mhm.
But so basically, all that stuff in Brazil is basically a gigantic second act.
Did you ever see the alternate opening where he tries to kill himself? Edward Norton, like when he tries
I,
to kill himself, and then he becomes the Hulk and he spits out the bullet.
I need to. I think that's one of the. I think it's a deleted scene, like on the
Yeah.
Blu-ray or something like that. But I need to. I need to have a look into that. But The Incredible Hulk is just a highly rewatchable movie for me. It's totally badass with Edward Norton. I just wish one more time, give us Norton back, please,
I'm probably
please,
never gonna
Feige,
get him
give it
back.
one more time.
First of all, forget Norton. I want a Hulk movie again in general. Forget Norton, dude, because I honestly feel like the reason that, at least for me, I don't really like the Hulk in the MCU minus Ragnarok. Even in Endgame, I kind of thought he was just okay. I remember like the first time I watched Endgame, I thought the Hulk shit was really funny, but then upon rewatches, I was like, this is kind of cringe sometimes. But the reason that I feel like it doesn't work for me is because of the fact that we haven't gotten a movie with him, and we haven't gotten, enough time with Mark Ruffalo's Hulk to be like, oh, okay, I like this character. Even though we've had a number of MCU movies with him, I feel like, one singular, like it'd be like if we never got Black Panther's movie, but he just showed up in Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. We wouldn't really understand his character.
Right, but But here's the problem: the reason why we're never going to get a solo Mark Ruffalo Hulk movie is only because Universal is too tempted to hold on to the
Universal.
rights to the character.
I don't know
So
what they're. I don't know why. I don't know what they're like. It's one of those things where it was like the Fox thing with Fantastic Four. They kept holding on to the rights for what? Like at least Fox was making Fantastic Four movies. Universal's not even doing anything with them with the rights. They're just holding them hostage for what?
they're just, I don't get it, but I can understand it at times, but it's just man, I just don't get it. Gotta shout out my good buddy Reagan in the chat. How's it going, buddy? Glad to have you here. Um, but yeah, the Incredible Hulk is my number five. Like I said, I really wish we could have gotten Edward Norton at least one more time in the MCU. So thanks a lot, Kevin Feige. You basically erased him from the franchise. But let's just keep chugging along. We're not going to talk about too much about that. But number four, what do you got, Tyler?
These are hard. These are the ones that are hard for me. But my number four for me is what I thought at one time was the best in the MCU, but has gone down a couple on rewatches, but is still fantastic. Avengers Endgame. Yes, it is.
You want me to bury it for you? I also have Endgame at number four as well.
So I guess we'll just tag team this shit.
Yeah,
So
you go first.
so Avengers Endgame is probably the most special movie I've ever seen in the theater. The theater experience, if I had one opportunity to go and get in the time machine and go back to any moment in my life, it would be to this theater experience and watch myself watch this movie again because it was a fully crowded IMAX theater, the first screening of the entire night for this movie. And it was basically 200 Marvel fans sitting in the theater wanting to see the conclusion to this saga. And it was just magic in one night. Literally, we lost our fucking minds. We laughed, we cried, we cheered, we screamed. It was just the greatest theater experience I've ever had. You know, and that made me grade the movie higher than I gave it a 10 when I first saw it. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I absolutely loved it. But upon rewatches, I brought it down to a 9. And the reason I bring it down to a 9 for me is because the second act for me, the first act is phenomenal. The third act is phenomenal. It's probably the best third act in a superhero movie, period.
Yeah,
But for me, the second act, for me, it really slows down. And again, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm still loving what I'm watching. But for me, it slows down the pacing quite a bit.
you kind of cut it out there again, man. Uh, are you still there, man? I don't know what's going on. But sorry, guys, for some of the technical interruptions. Um, oh, there we go. I think,
I don't know
yeah, you're
what
back now.
happened. I don't know what happened. It kicked me out again the same way it did last time. But for me, the second act it really slows down because the first act is really fast moving. You know, you get through this grief and this down and the somberness of the events from Infinity War. And then the third act is this just insane climax. But for me, the second act is really slow because I love all the stuff in New York. The stuff with the Tesseract and the the time stone. I really love that stuff. But for me, where the movie really slows down is all the Nebula stuff with Gamora and 2014 Thanos, and also the scene with the Soul Stone. For me, that scene, when I first watched it, I loved it, but upon rewatch, that scene to me is so fucking predictable because it was like, okay, you brought back Hawkeye. Why would you bring him back to then kill him? It would have made no sense. So obviously, Black Widow was gonna go, and to me, sending those two there, you knew, oh, okay, one of them is obviously gonna die. It wasn't I don't think the moment had the impact that it should have had. I think you should have had two different characters that didn't really have a connection to each other. Maybe go to for the Soul Stone. That's just me. Second act aside, this movie is phenomenal. All the acting across the board is fantastic. The action sequences are just insane. The third act, again, is probably my favorite third act in a superhero movie, period. It still tears me up to this day. And I don't think we'll ever get another movie like Avengers Endgame ever again. It's just one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. And I've seen people, apparently, it's the popular thing to hate on this movie now. I really don't give a shit. If you really hate on this movie without legit reasons, you're just an idiot at that point. But
Yeah,
despite my second act issues, I still absolutely love Endgame and can rewatch it for days. It's fantastic.
absolutely. I love Endgame as well. I'll tackle it in a second, but Movies and Trains is kind of mad at us right now where we put Endgame. Hey man, like all art is subjective.
It is what it is, my boy.
Let's see. Flicks Critic and Movies and Trains have Iron Man at their number 4. I have that as an honorable mention. But so let's get to why I have Endgame at number 4. Just like you touched on, sometimes the second act does kind of tend to drag, but it doesn't help. It doesn't make me downgrade this film too harshly because I still really love what the Russo brothers were really going for with this movie, and the character build up and also the emotional core of this movie was just all there. It wasn't just like thrown in there just to make us, be like, oh hey, feel bad for these characters. Like it actually makes you like sympathize with these characters. But the problem is, the reason why Jeremy Renner was not in Infinity War was only because he was working on a movie called Tag. So they brought him back in an Endgame for some odd reason, and you didn't keep him in Infinity War. That's what confused me about Endgame was that they didn't have Jeremy Renner in Infinity War, but they have him in Endgame for some odd reason.
I honestly don't think he would have fit in Infinity War. That's just me. With what they went with his story, I don't think he would have fit in Infinity War. And there's honestly a lot going on in Infinity War, and I don't think putting him in with that would have helped Infinity War. I don't think.
Yeah, probably not. But aside from that, all the cast members are fantastic. Scarlett Johansson, well, what technically was kind of her final outing as Black Widow before we finally got her solo movie. Phenomenal performance there. Again, Jeremy Renner, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Bradley Cooper, Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, once again, phenomenal. But again, the Professor Hulk stuff was kind of eh,
That's another
because I
thing that
really,
brings it down for me. The Professor Hulk stuff. And also sometimes the fat Thor thing kind of for me it kind of doesn't always work anymore. But I love him like in the end when he's kicking ass with both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. That shit is business. I love that.
I just love how, like, you know what? Thinking about that fat Thor, that reminds me a lot of the Big Lebowski in so many ways.
Hmm.
Like for any of you guys that have seen the Big Lebowski, you guys will get my reference. So, but yeah, Chris Hemsworth again as Thor, phenomenal. I always love the fat Thor stuff. Again, it's just Professor Hulk, and sometimes the second act gets a little bit too slow. But this is Professor Hulk. I don't like the way he looks, honestly, and I also don't like that he just becomes like a friendly professor and everything. I want him like the more angrier side and not just be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm a science professor here."
Yeah,
You
also
know,
I didn't like that they didn't pay off Infinity War when he got his ass kicked and then the Hulk didn't come out. I'm a little upset that they never paid that confrontation off at all. But
Yes. Yes, I totally agree with that. But yeah, we both have an Endgame at number 4. So
also,
number what's
well,
up?
before we move on, also, I really like Captain Marvel in this movie for the little screen time she's here. I really dig
Yes.
Captain Marvel in this movie. I think she's really cool. Much
Absolutely.
better than the
So
movie.
yes. Number 3.
My number three is going to be Captain America: Civil War. I
Oh.
love Captain America: Civil War. I think it's, there's things in this movie that are better than my number two, but for me, there's something about my number two that's a lot better done than Civil War. Civil War to me is probably the Dark Knight of the MCU in the sense that it's really grounded, and yes, you have witches and fucking robots, and people that shrink, but in the end, it is a very grounded movie in the MCU that deals with very serious issues. I love the conflict between Captain America and Iron Man. I think it's so well done. The acting is fantastic. The reveal in the third act that Bucky killed his parents is just phenomenally done. The third act in general is phenomenally done. The airport sequence is one of my favorite in the MCU. Other than the sequences in Infinity War, it might be my favorite in the MCU. I absolutely love it. Um, Black Panther's introduction in this movie is fantastic. I like this version of him more than probably any other version we ever got of him. I like this ruthless, badass version of Black Panther. That's just my personal opinion. Ant-Man is a lot of fun, especially when he becomes Giant Man. I love that. When we get our
Yes.
introduction to Spider-Man, it's fucking awesome. And I remember when he first showed up, it was just fantastic to actually get him. Like, I didn't think we would ever get Spider-Man fighting with the Avengers. And seeing it for the first time, you're like, this is fucking happening. Spider-Man is like, we're not gonna have another moment like that until we see the X-Men fighting with the Avengers. You know,
Yes.
so overall, Civil War is one of my favorites. Um, it's very rewatchable, and I just absolutely love this movie so much.
Yes, I definitely do have it lower on the list though, but I definitely do respect your opinion on that. Flicks Critic actually agrees with you about Civil War being the Dark Knight of comic book movies. So of the MCU stuff. So, but yeah, I definitely understand that. But to me, um, for this one though, I do have another Captain America movie at my number 3. This is where I put the Winter Soldier. I I think this was probably, if I remember right, this was the first one from the Russo brothers that directed in the MCU.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was. I the biggest thing that I love about this movie, and it doesn't really feel like an MCU film. It's like a spy espionage thriller, like a Mission Impossible type of movie.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I love about Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Again, Chris Evans as Captain America, Steve Rogers, perfect, picture perfect, and also I gotta talk about Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. Fantastic in this movie. We always keep forgetting to touch on Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury.
I felt like that was the thing that was missing from Civil War was him as Nick Fury.
Yes, but in The Winter Soldier, he's perfect in this movie. Like for the time he's on screen, fantastic. Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, again,
This
amazing.
was my favorite performance of her. Other than Endgame, this was my favorite performance of her as Black Widow.
Yes, yes, I actually think I can agree with that. But who's on the one? Robert Redford in this movie also did a really good job in this
Oh my
movie.
god, I love him.
But the real show stealer of this movie, in my opinion, is Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes / the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
When it like when it's revealed that it was Bucky the whole time, being the actual villain of this movie, my jaw was pretty much on the floor watching this movie. Like, anytime I go back and watch Captain America: The Winter Soldier, it still gets me. Like, what I do with this one is basically I watch this film like I'm watching it for the first time, even though I've seen it like multiple times already. But basically, I just go into it with fresh eyes and basically have like my first like make it like I have my first viewing on it
Hmm.
when I really look at it. But yeah, I love Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's definitely the best of the Captain America trilogy. That's for sure. Really, really do love this movie, and I cannot wait to watch it again very, very soon. And also, really enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier as well. Number two, we're getting very close. We're almost hitting the hour mark, so hope you guys are still with us. Hit that subscribe button for me and Tyler as well. Number two.
My number two is what we just talked about, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Um, I remember when I saw this, and I honestly loved it. It was one of my favorites, and it's actually funny. I went on a Disney cruise for my brother back in 2014, and they had like a movie theater there where you could watch like a whole bunch of Disney movies and Marvel movies because Disney owns Marvel. And I essentially took my dad to go see the Winter Soldier for the first time on the boat, and I watched a Marvel movie on a boat. So it it's kind of funny that I can say, oh, I watched an MCU movie on a boat. But I really love Winter Soldier. This is one of the few that I own on 4K because I love this movie. It is the reason I have this above Civil War is because Civil War for me has maybe one too many characters in it, and some of them get left in the you know in the back. This for me balances the perfect blend of having every character be important. I love Robert Redford as Alexander Pierce. Fucking amazing. The score for this movie is phenomenal. The the score for the sequence where he escapes the Shield headquarters, where he breaks out after the elevator sequence, it legit just makes me want to run laps around my house because I just love that score. I love that track and I love that score. The opening sequence also, I don't think people talk about enough. That opening action sequence with the ship is fucking awesome. I love that. Captain
Yes.
America: The Winter Soldier for me is just the perfect one of the perfect comic book movies. It's just I have no issues with it. I've seen probably this one the most out of every of the MCU, and I will continue to keep that streak because I love the Winter Soldier so much.
Yes, absolutely. And I just talked about that already. But my number two might come off as a shocker for some people, but this is actually where I have Doctor Strange.
Okay.
But one of the biggest reasons why I love Doctor Strange is the introduction of the character himself, Stephen Strange, played by the excellent Benedict Cumberbatch. Like, this might be his best performance like of his whole career, like to me by this point. And I think this is what really is helping getting his career on track a little bit more. Um, Even though he really did kind of prove himself with a Star Trek Into Darkness as Khan back in 2013. But with this movie, I really think he is proving himself to be a fantastic actor and really proving himself to be Doctor Strange in the MCU. And I love his appearances in the other movies, and I cannot wait to see him in No Way Home.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. Like, seriously, you really have no idea how excited I am for to see Doctor Strange in No Way Home. Again, I think it's on the yeah, it's definitely one to introduce like the multiverse stuff. That's for darn sure.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie is a visual spectacle. In all honesty, like I love the visuals of this movie. Benedict Wong as Wong, ironically enough, fantastic. Um, Mads Mikkelsen though as the villain of this movie, love him. I love Mads Mikkelsen in this movie. I mean, he has proven himself to play as like to play great villains like Le Chiffre and Casino Royale, which might be his best performance. Like really thinking about it, it might be his best for Mads Mikkelsen. Chiwetel Ejiofor, fantastic as well. I actually did really like Rachel McAdams in this movie as well. For being honest, not kind of an unpopular opinion, but I really dug her character.
I like her.
But I don't know. I just really dig a lot of different things about Doctor Strange. Like it's the type of MCU film that is basically just a groundbreaking spectacle. Like for just visually alone, to me, like the visuals for this movie are just picture perfect.
I don't know. For me, Doctor Strange is kind of. Uh oh. All right, let's wait for him to come back. He's probably gonna come back any second. Oh, there he is.
Again, it kicked me out like it did last time.
We have bad luck. Very bad luck.
It just happens, but yeah,
For me, upon rewatch, Doctor Strange was a bit kind of forgettable for me. The visuals are great and the acting across the board is great. But to me, I didn't really think Mads Mikkelsen's villain was all that to me. I don't know. It's kind of forgettable for me. Like I used to really love it, but it's actually gone down quite a bit for me. And but I do love Benedict Cumberbatch, and I think if it wasn't for him, I think this movie would probably be bottom tier MCU for me. That's
it
just my
probably
opinion.
it'd probably be like on the level of like Captain Marvel or Thor: The Dark World, more than likely.
No, not. I would say it would be on the level of where I have Thor, not Captain Marvel. Because Captain Marvel's in
Mostly,
the bad territory for me.
it's mostly if Benedict Cumberbatch was not in this movie, it'd probably be on the level of like where I have Thor: The Dark World, which I freaking hate.
Because
I
even
just
without Benedict Cumberbatch, you still have a decent movie.
well, I
Because Thor: The
honestly
Dark
probably
World isn't
would.
decent. Thor: The Dark World's bad.
It's terrible, but if it was decent enough, I probably would put it above the first Thor movie at least, because I definitely do have that one like towards the bottom. But here we are. We finally made it. Our number one.
My number one MCU movie is going to be Captain Marvel.
No, you're joking.
I'm kidding. Yes, I am joking. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Of course, it is Avengers Infinity War.
There
I
you go.
absolutely love Avengers Infinity War. I remember when I had this was basically the precursor to Endgame in the sense of my theater audiences. This theater experience was also great. Not as great as Endgame, but this was like kind of dipping the toe in the pool. It was a great theater reaction, and Avengers Infinity War to me is a perfect comic book movie. I honestly love
Yes.
every single frame of this movie. I love the tone, I love the acting, I love the cinematography, I love the action sequences, I love the ending, the score, everything about this movie is just picture perfect to me. The acting again is fantastic. Josh Brolin did an amazing job. Um, I love the camaraderie with the Guardians and Iron Man and Doctor Strange. I love seeing all the different little teams that they had. All of that stuff is fantastic. I love the tone, which is like this dark, desperate tone. And I honestly think no movie other than Endgame and this has come close to getting that tone of desperation. The third act of this movie is, other than Endgame, before Endgame, this was probably the most worried I've ever been for characters in a comic book movie. Because you're seeing all this shit happen and you legit do not know where it's going. And when that shocking ending just happened, you're just left there frozen in your seat. Like, what the fuck just happened? That's how
Yes.
I was. I legit didn't even know what to like. The movie ended, and everyone was clapping. I didn't know whether to clap, cry, or I don't. The movie just ended. It was a huge cliffhanger. The movie just ended, and I'm just seeing blank credits on my screen after I watched half the MCU just die. I didn't know what to do with myself, and I don't think
Yep.
a lot of comic book movies do that. You know, like even The Dark Knight ended on a cliffhanger, but we were all like, "Oh, we're gonna get another movie. That's cool." But with this, we were like, "No, we just saw Spider-Man and Black Panther die within a span of minutes. That's not okay." You
No.
know, but Avengers Infinity War for me is an absolute perfect comic book movie. It has some of my favorite moments in the MCU with Thor coming down with Stormbreaker. The whole fight on Titan is one of probably my favorite action sequence in the MCU period. And overall it is an absolute masterpiece to me.
I definitely agree with all your points there. But my number one is finally here. It's Thor Ragnarok. I like you said, this movie is just pure fun. Like basically that's all it is. It's just light, fun. It's basically just a movie that you can just watch. Like if you have nothing else to do on a day where you just like you want to just eat some pizza and just watch a movie. I think Thor Ragnarok is definitely the movie to pop in to just eat some pizza, just have some fun. Chris Hemsworth once again is fantastic as Thor. I love the tone they took him in this movie. Again, Mark Ruffalo, best appearance as the Hulk. But we did forget to talk about a little bit about Jeff Goldblum in this movie.
Ooh, Jeff Goldblum. How did we forget about Jeff Goldblum?
That was just amazing. I love Jeff Goldblum in this movie. Again, Tessa Thompson, Kate Blanchett, all the cast involved in this movie is fantastic. Taika Waititi, he should be like our new Marvel guy because he knows how to make a Marvel movie just
Yeah.
so well. And I just can rewatch this film and just not even get like bored. I can just relax, sit back, just have a good time. I love Thor Ragnarok, and it is my number one. But my friend, we did it. So those are our top 10 MCU films. It's been over an hour since we did this, but you know what? It was worth it. But thanks once again, Tyler, for coming on to the stream here. Where can we find you?
You guys can follow me on my Instagram. Type in Mind of a Nerd. It'll be the first thing that pops up. Weekly reviews and 24, well, not 24/7 because I have to sleep at some time. But, you know, most of the day coverage on everything happening in the movie, video game, and television news.
All right, yeah. So once again, I left a link to his Instagram and his channel down below. So go give him some love. And once again, hit that subscribe button for me, and also make sure you click on that bell icon, and also hit that thumbs up as well. So yeah, guys. Once again, thank you all so much for coming by to the chat. So if you guys want to see more content from both me and Tyler, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.